Just as some of us are born left-handed or nearsighted, are some of us born gay? Scientists around the world are busy investigating this newest theory.
This idea that homosexuality has a genetic base is the latest in a long trail of inquiry for medical science.
Gay men and lesbians have long been a puzzle to medical science. For much of this century, they were thought of as mentally ill. To some, Sigmund Freud and his followers held out the hope of a psychiatric cure after years of analysis. During the 1930s and 40s, other doctors tried cruder methods, prescribing lobotomies and electroshock treatments. The ultimate horror was the Nazi medical experiments on homosexuals. Thousands of men in the pink triangles perished in the death camps. In 1948, the Kinsey Report stunned the nation when it revealed there were far more homosexuals in all social groups than anyone had suspected. But it wasn't until 1973 that the American Psychiatric Association dropped homosexuality from its list of mental disorders. More recently, scientists have begun looking for genetic and biological clues to the cause of homosexuality. 2 years ago, Dr. Simon LeVay of the Salk Institute in California announced he had found physical differences in the brains of gay and straight men.
Most of these differences you see in the brain and so on are pretty statistical things. This was like a really massive difference.
Now, in the latest study published last month, Dr. Richard Pillard of the Boston University Medical Center looked at lesbians raised with twin sisters and adoptive sisters. His findings? In nearly half the pairs of identical twins, both sisters were lesbian. In 16% of fraternal twins, both sisters were lesbian. And in pairs of adopted sisters, only 6% were both lesbian. In other words, the more genes a lesbian shared with her sister, the more likely the sister was to be lesbian as well.
The next thing to do is to look for the genes themselves, or the gene itself. You scan down the lengths of the chromosomes to see if there are genes which are associated with being gay or heterosexual, as the case may be. And since there are hundreds of thousands of genes, it's a long search.
Nature over nurture. It's an idea that makes sense to many gay men like Tim Sharp and Michael Thorne.
What do you think about this debate as to whether one is born gay or whether one chooses to be gay?
When I grew up, I was like, I knew that I had interaction towards men. Didn't know what it was or why. I mean, I can remember going to the beach and saying, oh boy, that lifeguard is handsome, but I don't understand why he's handsome to me. It took me a long time to figure out why.
Certainly didn't want to be gay. I mean, I think most of us felt like that. We tried to hide it. We tried to do everything we could to discourage that within ourselves. I mean, we lay in wake nights and fantasize about women and see if, enough practice would make it work, but it just didn't work.
What do you think of the research into genetics, whether there's a genetic link to being gay? Do you have any problem with that kind of research?
Determining what the fetus is going to be, if the baby's going to be gay or straight, and then talking about abortion, that would certainly bother me a lot.
Many scientists also have serious concerns about the search for a gay gene. Harvard geneticist Dr. Evan Balaban says even if such a gene were found, we still wouldn't know what to make of it.
We all believe that genes can influence just about anything you do, but the argument is more between those who feel that gene influences are very small and are not clearly definable, and those people who believe that a gene influence is a major thing, that a single gene can have a very strong effect, and that it can override other things that influence the development of complicated behaviors like one's sexual orientation.
That idea that genetics does not equal destiny is heard at the Whitestone Ministry for Ex-Gays at Ruggles Baptist Church in Boston.
We see ourselves as a healing ministry, and so we base a lot of what we do on the Scripture and on God's desire to bring people to healing, to change. We also use methods that are available in some psychological research about the developmental issues that go into homosexuality.
Over the last 7 years, Whitestone has offered group counseling to hundreds of men like Tom who say they're rejecting homosexuality.
I am becoming more and more attracted to women, but But that's not the issue, and that's not what I'm after. What I'm after is Jesus and his life in and through me, that I can love everyone appropriately and not seek to have all of my needs met through human relationships. That's what I was doing, and I'm not doing that now.
As the search continues into the mystery of human sexuality, one thing is becoming clear. Science by itself can never provide all the answers.
America is a diverse democratic society. We have individuals who differ in a number of ways. And we as a society have to decide if we're going to tolerate and value individual differences, or if we're going to rather try to eradicate them. And I think that that decision does not depend on the biology of how individuals become different.
Sounds like there's a long way to go in this research, Peter.
Yeah, and it's controversial within the gay community, Mary, as we heard. Many gays feel the research itself shouldn't be going on at all because of the risk of manipulation. And, you know, we heard them discuss abortion and whether or not they could require a gene test for issuing life insurance, for example. The scientific community is still not settled on this. The best evidence that we have is the observation we heard from the gay people we talked to, that they felt different and attracted to the same sex from a very early age.
More of Chronicle in just a moment.